Hello everyone, this is the great Lord and Master Oseron, the Eternal. For another video, this is a sort of a continuation of the infinite nature of 8 videos. I want to re-emphasize some aspects of the numbers that show that the feminine precedes the masculine. See, the feminine precedes the masculine in every fractal aspect of nature. Even our bodies, a fetus, when it's in its earliest stages, is a feminine thing, and it turns into a masculine. And this truth fractalizes all throughout nature, including the numbers. Because I guess there's some occult material that they say that the even numbers are feminine and the odd numbers are masculine. And a way they try to justify that is they say because Eve is called Eve, that means even. But that's definitely not the case. I mean, the odd numbers are the feminine and the even numbers are masculine, as I explained in the video prior to this. But I just want to show how the numbers, how they unpack, show this to be true, because the feminine precedes the masculine in every fractal aspect, including the numbers and how they work. And the way the numbers evolve and break down show this in their machinations. If you see here, you remember this from the previous video, the 1 through 8. Well, I put the 9 on the end because this is pretty interesting what this does. When you add the 9, the first 6 numbers, the first 6 numbers, 1 through 6, reduce to become a 3. And then the last 3 numbers reduce to become a 6. So it's showing its inverse aspect in the creation of this. But when you reduce these numbers, when you add the 1 and the 2, it becomes a 3. When you add the 3 and 4, it becomes a 7. And you add those together, it becomes a 1 or a 10 and a 1. All these numbers are odd numbers in their, which means they're feminine numbers. Okay. But over here on this side, it does something a little different. See, the 5 and the 6 become 11, which is 2 feminine numbers. And the 7 and 8 become 15, which is 2 feminine numbers. And then it's only after that that they turn into masculine. The 11 becomes a 2, and the 15 then becomes a 6. And then you add the 6 and the 2, and it becomes an 8. And then you add all the 3, 7, and 1 up, and that reduces to a 2. And you add the 2, 6, and 8, and that reduces to a 7. Okay, and the same thing if you use it 0 through 9. If you add the 0 and the 1, it becomes a 1. The 2 and 3 becomes a 5. The 4, 5 is 9. That's dead center. But if you add the 6 and the 7, that becomes 13, which is 2 feminine numbers. And the 8 and the 9 becomes 17, which again is 2 feminine numbers. And then it turns into the 4, and then the 17 turns into the 8. And then the 8 and the 4 is 12, a feminine and a masculine number again, and that reduces to a 3. But the reason I'm making this video is because someone sent me a message last night showing me that these numbers written out like this. They had it written out like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, then 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, and all that is, is the feminine numbers on one side, the 9 in the middle, and the masculine on the other side. And it shows you, if you add all the feminine numbers together, that becomes 16, and then that reduces to 7. But the 16 is the tower. And I said in other videos that the tower is the ejaculating phallus. And what it really is not really the phallus itself. It's actually the jizz or the semen that comes out of the phallus. Because remember, the sevens are the fluids of the body, and semen is a bodily fluid that transmits the code of life from the male into the woman. So you're transmitting the data of creation through your phallus into the woman via the semen or the ejaculate, and that's how they get, that's how she gets pregnant and has a baby and all that. So, and we see this here. It's that's what the tower is. In this side, you got 2, 4, 6, and 8, which becomes 20, and that's judgment, and that reduces to a 2. Now you're going to notice something interesting, that all the feminine numbers, when you combine them, it reveals a 1 and a 6. And it's showing that the masculine aspect of Kundalini comes from the feminine itself. And over here, when you add all the numbers, it becomes 20, and the 0 goes in this spot, and then that reduces to a 2. So all the even numbers ultimately reduce to the 2 that is electricity, which is polarity and duality, which is the masculine aspect, or the Shiva aspect. So it's showing you that the masculine aspect is literally nothing without the feminine. The masculine aspect is only a tool. This universe, this matrix we live in, is only an expression, a means of expression for the greater aspect of the eternal, immortal, feminine aspect of creation, which is beyond this matrix. So the feminine aspect is eternal, and it shows up as Kundalini in this world. And the reason Kundalini is undetectable is because it is undetectable, because it uses the material matrix as its conduit. So if you try to analyze it or find it, you're only going to see the conduit, so you're only going to see the material aspect show up. But how we know that Kundalini is present, it shows up through beauty, health. It shows up through mainly beauty and health. So if you see a creature, a being that is beautiful and healthy and vibrant and strong and alive, that is an indication that the Kundalini is flowing powerfully through them. So looks matter is what that means. So, the more beautiful you are and the healthier you are, the more you are in harmony with the greater eternal feminine aspect that is Kundalini. So if you see a person that's grotesquely, ugly or whatever, there's several reasons that could be. One, it could be that person itself just doesn't do anything to care for their body, or they could just be the product of their family line, which could be an aspect that, bad marriages, people that have people having kids that shouldn't have kids, and you continue this over time, and you start to get deformed people who are born ugly, basically, and this is a product of their family line. So it matters who you sleep with, it matters who you have kids with, and it matters what you do with your body. So anyone who tells you that looks don't matter, or your body doesn't matter, or health doesn't matter, they'll say stuff like, oh, it doesn't matter what you look like, what matters is on the inside. Well, that's bullshit, because a sign of someone who is in harmony with the matrix will be beautiful and healthy, So that's just the way it is. So the more beautiful you are and the healthier you are, the more you are vibrating in harmony with the greater purpose that this matrix was meant to be. Now, we live in a perverse world, and it's been perverse for a long, long time. So we've had, we see people now who are being born, there's a lot of, to be nice about it, there's a lot of imperfection in the world, and it's getting worse and worse every time, and that is, Abrahamic philosophies, like that, basically. Keep it, I'm trying to be as nice as I can here, but, but anyway, back to this, but this shows how the feminine precedes the masculine too. And even here on this side, like these first 4 numbers produce all of the feminine numbers, and the last ones produce the masculine numbers. So again, the feminine precedes the masculine here. In this order sequence, the feminine precedes the masculine in every aspect, and this does too. It's showing that the masculine aspect shows up after. It's just, even in the tarot, we see this, in the Golden Dawn versions of the decks. The court cards of those decks have a queen, and then a knight, and then the prince and princess. So there is no king. So it's the queen, and the knight serves the queen. And that's how it is supposed to be. The masculine force is meant to serve the greater principle of beauty and health. That is, that's how the world's supposed to be. But remember, every person has both qualities, masculine and feminine, so it's not a case of men versus women, because we as beings have access to both polarities. So every man and every woman has access to both energies, masculine and feminine. Somewhere along the line, either purposely or accidentally, this truth was misunderstood and perverted, so then you get Abrahamic religions that think that they mean the masculine is superior and the feminine is inferior, which I don't know how that would ever come to be, because that's toxic and perverse. But it's not that. It's the feminine principle of beauty and health, and the material matrix is the masculine principle. So, when people say look to the light, well, the light is only the vehicle of electricity. It's only that aspect of electricity. It's the matrix. The matrix is light. So when they say Lucifer is the light, well, Lucifer is the light. Lucifer is the matrix. The darkness is where the true beauty is, but we can't see that. The darkness only means that which we can't see. It's beyond our senses, but we know it's there if we have a healthy body. If we have a beautiful body, we know we are doing the right thing. We can feel it. It shows up as love, health, beauty, joy, happiness, all this stuff. So if you're happy, joyful, beautiful, and healthy, you know that you're probably doing a lot of good things. And that's that. And the title of this one is The Immortal Goddess and Her Knight in Shining Armor. And the knight is only electricity. That's all it is. The material matrix is electricity. That's designed to serve the goddess, the immortal goddess. And over here I just have the true tree and the jewel showing up small. Because again, remember, on the true tree, you got the feminine pillar of Boaz, the masculine pillar of Yakin, and the middle pillar is a combination. And if you use the proper code of 0 through 9, it builds the tree in the right way. And all of these rows, this one becomes 3, 3, and 3, which becomes 9. And on the jewel here, remember that the jewel is the hanged man, so it builds upside down. So you got 1, 2, 3, all the way up, and it stops at 9. And then that reduces to 6, 6, and 6, which becomes 18, then 9. So the jewel is 666, or the material matrix, and the true tree is divine, and it's beyond that. So the true tree is beyond the material world. So the Kabbalistic tree, again, is the jewel masquerading as the true tree. That's why I say it's a symbol for, I say atheism, but it's really not atheism. It's actually Satanism, because the Jews, the underlying philosophy of the Jews that goes all the way back to the Talmud, maybe beyond, is Satanism. It's the destruction of beauty. That's why the Abrahamic religions are so toxic towards women, because it's the beauty that they despise. They despise the beauty that is natural in women. But the men have access to that too. It's just our culture, we've been cut off from that, and we've been taught to be afraid of sexuality, to be afraid of the feminine aspect of creation. But we need to acknowledge that as men and women, but especially as men, we need to acknowledge the feminine, because to gain greater power, you have to fully embrace the feminine aspect of creation to get more masculine power. If you try to do it the other way, you're just gonna turn into a monster, and that's exactly what Abrahamism is. It's the monster. It's a golem. It's an evil Frankenstein monster. It's a creation of evil because it tries to subjugate the feminine. It tries to dismiss that, and you can't. So the even numbers of the masculine, again, I just want to, the odd numbers, the yoni-verse or universe is 1, and yoni is the feminine womb, and uni is 1, yoni, and the masculine principle is duality, which is electricity. That's why that's a 2. So that's why that is like that. So it all boils down to the 1 and the 2 aspect. because 1 is feminine, 2 is masculine, and that's in order with nature. And the reason the single digits use 0 through 9 is because that is the frequency of the matrix. That's all it is. That's the only reason 9 is used, because that's just, remember, 9 is only 9 ones, and just like 8 is only 8 ones, and 7 is 7 ones. It's all a binary. That's all it is. It's all 0 and 1. But when you dial and tune it in to the proper frequency, it becomes 9 ones, and that is the matrix. And then when it's tuned properly, the matrix reveals itself in this just most brilliant of ways all throughout the the construct. It's really amazing. So that's that. I'm just getting over a cold. It was a really mild cold, but it was bad enough to be annoyed by it, but it wasn't that bad to be put out of action with it. It's sort of because the Shivambu really makes colds not bad, but this time I actually got hit with it, and it's been about a week. So, but it was really mild. It was a cold, but it was mild, but it was real. So thank you, and namaste.